How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today I bring you a video from CNN, a very interesting video, one that I didn't think they would make. This is a panel of Trump supporters from all over the country, a very diverse group, talking to the CNN host, Alisyn Camerota. Hopefully I pronounced her name correctly. But the host is basically grilling them about Charlottesville, Trump's reaction. Was it too soft? Was it, giving excuses for the white nationalists? Is that and the third? Their reactions were great, something that is really needed on CNN because they have really become the leftist echo chamber. When Trump had his remarks about Charlottesville, the most recent time, the one where he really just put his foot down and told what it was, you had guys like Van Jones crying. I think you had Don Lemon going into a tirade. It was really embarrassing. It was really a mess. So it was a breath of fresh air to see these regular everyday people talk about things in a common sense and practical sort of way. So what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and roll that clip. Like I said, we're going to watch it together, and I'm going to stop and pause at certain points to give my 2 cents. So without further ado, go ahead and roll it.
So President Trump again attacked the press last night, trying to blame the media for his own controversial comments on Charlottesville. As you are about to hear, for many of his most diehard supporters, those attacks on the press are making a lasting impression. On Monday, I sat down with a group of Trump voters from Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Alabama, and Georgia to get their take. And they have very strong opinions about who was to blame for violence in Charlottesville and where they go to get their information.
That's funny. You're going to see that a little bit later. She got triggered because where to get the information and how they feel about CNN, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
How many of you, show of hands, were troubled by the president's response to the violence in Charlottesville?
Nobody. Blank stares. Hilarious.
None of you minded how President Trump responded.
The look of pure disbelief or disgust. I can't really tell which one it is. That's like the look you get from your mom when you come home with a bad report card or something like that.
No. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I mean, he addressed a problem. I mean, let's face the reality. There are problems on both sides.
Do you think that neo-Nazis and white supremacists are the same as those who are protesting them?
I think it's ridiculous to have me choose between Hitler and Stalin. There
you go. 100%. Bang on. See, the thing about it, people always talk about Adolf Hitler because of the Jews that got killed, which is, obviously unfortunate. The Holocaust was a terrible thing. I'm not a Holocaust denier or anything like that. But at the end of the day, you're talking about people like Stalin, Mao Zedong, even Pol Pot. You're talking about communist, socialist regimes have killed millions upon millions of more people than Hitler could ever dream of. So why just have it be so romanticized when you're talking about Hitler? But you failed to mention the communist regimes that have killed people, created famines and wars and everything else all over the world. It doesn't make any sense. And that is what the so-called other side represents. They talk about communism, they talk about socialism, and they're really fascists themselves. But we get to that a little bit later.
Which is what I consider both groups are.
And why are the people who turned out to protest Nazis, why are they Stalin to you?
The Antifa group to me is totally a very Stalinish kind of group.
How so?
If you're willing to set fires and burn places to the ground, that doesn't sound like a very peaceful group to me.
But
they're both the same evil.
They didn't use those tactics in Charlottesville.
So then I blame the government.
Why do you blame the governor or the government for a white supremacist mowing down a crowd of people and killing someone?
Oh boy. Come on. You focusing on tragic incident. I don't mean to laugh, but I'm just laughing at her and the way she's trying to frame it, because you're trying to use the death of Heather Heyer to be like, oh, okay, well, somebody died. So then that means that the person who did it, they're white supremacists. And then you're trying to compare all of the incidents that happened to this one situation, and you're trying to make that be like the worst of it. But the truth is, there were a lot of incidents that happened all throughout the whole weekend, especially that Saturday. So you can't just focus on that one incident and then assign that to somebody that is a so-called white supremacist and say, oh, well, that is the worst thing that happened. So you can't compare all the other things that happened to the other side. That's just really not an honest way to do reporting.
Because they didn't protect the people that day.
The people who were marching with the signs, do you see them as neo-Nazis and white supremacists?
I mean, it hasn't been investigated, so we really don't know who was out there. But I'm telling you, I've seen videos of other people who were out there who were not neo-Nazis.
That's correct. Not everybody that was out there was a neo-Nazi, white supremacist, or whatever. And Trump said that, and I appreciate him for saying that, because it's like, look, if I go out there to protect the statue that I feel is important, that doesn't make me white supremacist or neo-Nazi. I just happen to like the statue or like what it represents or want to preserve history. You see, you can't just conflate somebody with a hate group because they want to protect something that's been there for 100 years. It doesn't make any sense. Now, there were hate groups out there, yes, but not everybody that wanted to protect the statue is part of a hate group. It's just logic and common sense.
You believe that there were very fine people protesting?
Yes, I do.
How do you know that?
I'm only telling you from videos that I've seen that people.
But what's the source of your videos? Where are you seeing them?
Facebook. And when I tried to repost those videos, they wouldn't allow me.
Yeah, that's something else. See, the thing about it, I don't even really doubt what you're saying. Sometimes that could be because somebody has a private page or whatever, and you can't share it. But sometimes you got a little bit of censoring going on, or a lot of censoring going on from Silicon Valley. I think Silicon Valley is complicit in this whole racial unrest because they promote things that are the socialist, communist, fascist agenda against conservatism. So that's a very good point she made there.
Is it possible they're not credible?
Could be. But like I said, they need to investigate and find out exactly what was going on out there.
Vice did an investigation of the people who went there with a purpose to march for neo-Nazis. So let me just play a clip.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
Before we even go to what she was about to say, the whole Jews would not replace us. I think that comes from the "He would not divide us," the Shia LaBeouf. These are a lot of internet people. These ain't no neo-Nazis or nothing like that. The real neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, are in the penitentiary. They got tattoos on their forehead, SS thunderbolts on their neck. These are not those people. These people right here are just regular normies for the most part.
So blood and soil was a Nazi slogan, and you heard them saying Jews will not replace us. Is it possible that very fine people were in that crowd?
Not in that crew. Nope. But those crazy, I don't know what else to call them. I probably can't say it on TV, but they still have the right to say those crazy things.
That's right. They do have the right to say whatever they want. I mean, at least that's what I thought in a free society. As long as you don't threaten somebody, as long as you don't yell fire in the theater, you can say pretty much whatever you want, regardless of how crazy or upsetting or offensive it is.
The night before the clash happened, the Antifa people, the protesters, they didn't show up Friday night. They showed up Saturday. These protesters showed up the second day. They came there to do battle with them. They showed up with helmets, body armor, clubs. They showed up with balloons filled with urine.
Yeah, they didn't throw up in the local.
And these guys showed up with semi-automatic weapons.
And that state of Virginia, open carry is legal. You can walk down the street.
It seems to me that
Correct.
you're giving these guys a green light. The white supremacists.
No,
Green light is
not
light.
Not at all.
Why do you seem more angry at Antifa than at the neo-Nazis in the
I'm
world?
not more angry. It's equal.
It's not about being more angry. I'm stopping right there. It's not about being more angry. It's about saying, look, don't just focus on one side. Focus on the problems that happened on both sides of the situation. You can't just say, oh, people that wanted to protect the statue, they're neo-Nazis, they're white supremacists, they're the cause of the problem. When you have people that came there, body armor, urine, whatever, throwing it at people, trying to antagonize the situation, you can't just look at it in a one-sided perspective. It doesn't make any sense.
Media is not covering it. They're only focused on making neo-Nazis and white supremacists out to be Trump supporters, and they're the issue of the problem.
Yes.
The reality is of what Trump said is there were two sides. There were two parties that participated.
He said there was trouble on both sides. Was there not trouble on both sides? Because I saw bats on both sides.
And I'm sure you've heard the argument. There was violence on both sides of World War II also.
Yes.
Oh, come on. Like World War II, that's a whole different ball of wax. First of all, it's a war. Second of all, it's a lot more complicated than just that. You had different countries involved. You had resources and everything else. I mean, that's just silly. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's like trying to compare two people fighting in the street to World War II. Like, if both people were drunk, acting the fool, and they get into a fight, and then you think one person was in the right just because of your personal feelings, you're going to try to compare that to World War II and defeating the Nazis. It doesn't make any sense.
But we were on the right side.
Yes.
There's a right side and a wrong side.
No, not in this case.
If there were some people in Antifa, okay, but most of them were students, including Heather Heyer, who was killed. So why aren't you...
She got killed because they didn't protect her.
Who killed her?
To be honest with you, I don't know because it hasn't been investigated yet. We haven't heard
But we
anything.
know who the suspect is.
Listen, I don't trust anything that the news media says anymore.
That's right on it. I don't trust the news media either. I pretty much look at it with a skeptical eye because they've been proven time and time again to be full of lies.
And the fact of the matter is we haven't heard from this young man. Like, when I first heard this, me, myself, I'm going to tell you what, some stuff ran through my mind. I'm like, maybe he had a panic attack.
Why are you giving him a pass?
I'm not giving him a pass.
But why are you thinking that the white supremacist might have had a panic attack?
How can he be a supremacist of anything and he's 20 years old? He's being led. He's a
Dylan
fool.
Roof. We saw this with other young white men.
Oh, boy.
Are white supremacists.
They're being led by devils.
I mean, you know, this whole young white man thing. I mean, if you want to go down that road, then what about young black men? I mean, who commits most of the murder in the United States? So are you going to get on there, Alisyn? Are you going to get on CNN and say, well, young black men, they're becoming black supremacists because of all the murder and violence that they commit? Or are you going to be like the black lady who was said that he's being led? You see, because you could use that argument that she said for blacks and whites and everybody else. If you young like that, you're being led down the wrong path. Why is it that you can come from the ghetto and live normal, but then some people don't live normal? Why is it you can come from a poor area that's white and live normal? And why do you choose to not live normal? What's really going on? But you don't want to talk about that when it comes to anybody that's white.
We're moving kind of further away from the point of what this conversation should be. What happened that day was a tragedy, and it should never have happened to begin with. No one here is supporting the neo-Nazis or the white supremacists, and that narrative is really negative. But what we are talking about is President Trump's response, and he stood in front of America and he condemned the violence that occurred that day.
You're talking about 300 or 400 people in Charlottesville.
Meaning the neo-Nazis?
Yeah. There's 60 million people voted for President Trump. Why don't we get our say? Those people aren't nothing. Y'all, Democrats have idiots, Republicans have idiots. But we're talking about us, the 60 million that's for Trump. We don't do stuff like that.
Exactly. It's funny how the mainstream media, you know, they try to pretty much lump everybody that's a Trump supporter as like some kind of evil, racist, hateful, bigot, white person that's poor on drugs or whatever. It's like, look, man, you had a very diverse group of people that voted for Donald Trump. Over 60 million people. You know, half of the nation that voted, for the most part, voted for Trump. So you can't just label half of the nation that voted as somehow a white supremacist. It doesn't make any sense. It's not logical thinking.
Why isn't it the easiest thing in the world for the president to say, neo-Nazis have no place in this country?
He did. He condemned them.
He said it Monday. He didn't know the facts.
Because he just came out on TV. Like, it just happened.
I think a great portion of it is a conspiracy. I think it was a setup.
From whom?
From whom? I think people who want to derail our president. And there were buses coming in with lots of young people. And protesters coming off the same bus were some wearing Black Lives Matter and some wearing the KKK shirts. They were brought in to cause a controversy, right?
I saw that. I did see that, but I'm going to let her keep talking.
Where are you getting your evidence?
A lot of it on Facebook.
Yes.
You saw something on Facebook?
Yes.
The protesters, the Antifa people, had an ad on Craigslist recruiting people for $25 an hour to show up for the protest in Charlottesville. It's all over the place. You can read the ad.
And you trust Facebook more than news organizations?
Oh, yeah.
I trust my
live
Facebook
video
friends,
from
yes, I
people
do.
who shot it that were present. Yeah.
Yes.
You trust your Facebook feed even though you don't know the origin or the source
the people
of these
are our
things.
friends.
Even though you can't tell me the source of these videos.
That's condescending tone, or you can't tell the source of these videos. Like, really condescending. But see, the point is, what they're about to say is like, look, the mainstream media, especially places like CNN, at all places in the world, they've been proven time and time again to be full of lies, to give false information, to give fake news. We've seen the Project Veritas videos. Shout out to James O'Keefe. We've exposed people at CNN in those walls right there that they're at. We've exposed them for being fraudulent, for being phony, for trying to do things to drum up ratings. The guy, Jeff Zucker, the CEO, has been identified as somebody that's trying just to get more ratings. They're going to go in the whole Russia situation because that's ratings. Right now with Charlottesville, another ratings grab. You had Van Jones talking about Russia, saying it was nothing burger on camera. And then he came out and put an article on CNN talking about, oh, I was just playing. You were just playing? Why would you say something like that when you don't know you're being recorded if you were just playing? It doesn't make any sense. Nobody trusts the mainstream media anymore. You'd rather just go on your Facebook wall, look at a video, and make your own mind up, because you know at this point you cannot trust the mainstream media.
I can pull them up off of Facebook and you see 30 people
in
the same video.
Okay, let me see this. So show me what you found on your phone.
Oh.
What you want just to have the evidence right there? Just be like, okay, I have everything prepared in the folder. Here it is. Like, come on. Like, stop playing. Like, you're really just trying to delegitimize other forms of media, alternative media. Man on the street. You're trying to delegitimize that to make your own stuff be more important.
The video.
I deleted it off. I'm sorry. There's videos on YouTube that are on Facebook. There are videos that if you just Google Charlotte, Virginia protesters videos, they all start popping up into the feed on Facebook.
I also have a young man who said that they saw these people, the 6 buses lined up, someone that lives in Charlottesville, that the 6 buses were lined up and people were getting off the bus with KKK shirts on and BLM shirts. I'm like, what? Now, while that may not sound credible, to a lot of people, to us who don't trust the news media, that could be very credible.
Exactly. 100%. It's like, look, I mean, when you have such low faith in the mainstream media that you know that every time you watch it, it's going to be something fake. It's going to be a spin on it that's not true, that's not accurate. Why would you believe anything they say? You might as well just believe something you see on Facebook. If you see a video, I mean, it's black and white, is full color evidence. Why not just take that more for what it is, rather than having a person like Alisyn Camerota, who was the host of this situation here, this a trial of these Trump supporters? Why trust somebody like her when you can make your own mind up from videos that somebody shot right there on the street? Okay, so you're able to see that. I don't have too much more to add. I think that it was good to have them come on CNN to give the pulse of America, for the average American, for them to be able to tell how they feel. Nobody trusts the mainstream media. I think even people on the left don't trust the mainstream media anymore. It's getting to the point where it's really ridiculous, because every time you turn it on, you know it's going to be a spin. You know it's going to be some kind of fake news spun in there some kind of way. You know they're going to skew it. They're not going to really report it accurately. So why not just look at independent reporters? Really what they're doing here, as I close, CNN, they're trying to like almost kill their own platform. If I was trying to kill my own platform, what would I do? I would constantly put out fake news stories. I would constantly just invoke distrust in my own viewer base. That's what's happened here. It's really unfortunate, but it is what it is. So what do you think about that video I just showed you? Do you think those supporters, those voters, those, average, everyday Americans, do they represent you? Do you feel kind of the same way they feel, not trusting the mainstream media? Understanding that there's violence on all sides of the coin. Doesn't matter if you are a Republican, Democrat, in the middle, libertarian, agnostic, politically, or whatever the case may be. You have bad people on all sides, and you can't just label everybody with a broad brush. And talking about broad brushes, as I close for real this time, it's funny that this woman, Alisyn Camerota, was trying to paint the guy as a white supremacist that killed Heather Heyer, even though we really don't know if that's true or false. But then if it was to be a Muslim attack where a guy got out of his car after killing like 80 people and stabbed 20 more, yelling Allahu Akbar, she'll be the kind of person that say, oh, it's not really about Islam. It's not Islam related. Meanwhile, you have magazines, songs that encourage it, all of that in Islam, that exact attack with the car and the knife. So I find that interesting. You want to talk about white supremacists in one way, but you don't leave that same interpretation of the information to anyone else other than somebody white, especially not anybody from Islam. Is it fear? Is it because you don't want to be considered racist? Is it because you hate whites? Is it all the above? Is it more? I can't call it, but whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.